And we're live. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to OpenAI Build Hours. I'm Christine. I'm on the startup marketing team, and I'm here today with Corey on our developer experience team.
Thanks, Christine. Nice to see everybody. I particularly work on ChatGPT apps, but broadly on our developer experience team across OpenAI's developer platform and tooling.
So our first topic for this year is apps in ChatGPT. This is our first build hour of the year, and I'm actually really excited that we have students from Berkeley, Stanford, MIT joining us today for the first time. So build hours, if you're not familiar, is to really empower you with the best practices, tools, and AI expertise to scale your company using OpenAI APIs and models. Right below on your screen, there's a link where you can check out our homepage. You can watch past build hours on demand, as well as sign up for all upcoming ones. So today, here's a brief snapshot of what you can expect. So first, we're going to do an overview on the apps platform. So this is going to be what we launched, real use cases. We're actually going to go into ChatGPT and show you the apps that you can use right now. And then we'll dive into building an app, the entire process, and also how to use Codex and our newly launched Docs MCP server to do this. And of course, the demo, we always live build during build hours. And today we'll be creating an app in ChatGPT to play ping pong. We did practice beforehand playing ping pong, so we are definitely ready. And then Corey will walk you through some best practices on how to make your app even better. So this includes UI, UX guidelines and what makes an app actually valuable, and then additional resources so that you can build an app and submit it to be reviewed, to be able to be live in ChatGPT. And then last is Q&A. We reserve 10 minutes for this. During the session, you can actually go into the right side of your screen if you click over to the Q&A button. Feel free to submit your questions, comments. Our team is in the room right here in SF, as well as New York, and we'll answer them throughout the session. Then we will pick a few to answer live. So with that, let's dive right in.
Thanks, Christine. Well, hey, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening from wherever you may be joining. I'm really excited today to talk about ChatGPT apps, particularly the apps platform, and show you how to build. I know we have a variety of folks here watching today. So we have both people for the first time looking at ChatGPT apps, and I know there's a lot of seasoned developers out there who've been messaging me before the live stream. So hopefully this is helpful for both net new builders and also those who are more experienced. So let's kick off. I'm gonna move over to the next slide. Great, and just to cover what we've launched since Dev Day when ChatGPT Apps as a platform launched, we launched our Apps SDK. Everything from the framework and how ChatGPT injects a UI widget within the client to how we are able to use MCP servers to pull in different contexts and tools and actions to take actions on behalf of the user's intent. And as well, we launched our apps doc site within developers.openai.com for everybody to learn about all the different components, pieces for you to build your experiences that you'd like. And as well, we've recently launched our public app submission flow. As Christine mentioned, you have the opportunity to put your own experience within ChatGPT for people all over the world to use. And as well, we have an app marketplace for you to discover more apps and install them into ChatGPT. And the last but not least, we have a bunch of different resources we've shipped across our UI component library, which helps give you already styled assets for you to make your app that look and feel very succinct with the rest of ChatGPT. And we have an app sample repo. Please check those out. And last but not least, what I'm excited to show you today is our new Docs MCP server to get you building even faster. All right, so we're gonna move into a demo of some apps to begin. I'm just gonna show what apps actually look like within ChatGPT, and then we'll move on to actually creating an app. All right, so now it's my turn to share. I'm gonna go to my entire screen. Okay, I am actually gonna go over here and tab over really quickly. Cool, so here we are in ChatGPT. And I've preloaded the AllTrails app. You can go into the plus button and then add more apps there directly, or go to our app directory to look for different apps that you would like to install. And this weekend, I'd love to go hiking. So let's ask AllTrails app to help me do that. I'd like to go hiking in Marin. Please help me find some great trails. I'm gonna hide this. Okay. So while this is happening, the model's taking in my intent and then passing that context off to Alltrails MCP app, and it's providing back a list of data that is in the Alltrails platform. So that's really what's powerful about apps. You can pull in different contextual data that doesn't exist potentially publicly on the web or for the model to directly access. Alltrails has a lot of great reviews on their site for that type of information, and it's presented this UI layer for me to see where they are in the world. But I'd love to do something even more powerful here and refine that experience by asking it to do something and find me dog-friendly trails. So please find me dog-friendly trails in Marin. And at this point, the model now is doing some refinement with the Alltrails app. And here we go. It's filtered some great dog-friendly options. And that is a capability from the app directly that you can provide to create a more engaging and immersive experience that uses both the power of the model, the engagement experience from a UI, and as well some logic and data that's been brought in from Alltrails. As well, they have the capability of doing full screen mode. So these are some great widget capabilities that we've exposed for you to control the experience within ChatGPT. So let's move on to the next app. So if you haven't seen the Adobe Express app, we're going to load that one here. And you can do some interesting visual creation directly now in ChatGPT. So you could say, build me a flyer for a builders event here in San Francisco on January 24th. And let's make it outdoor clothing theme, keeping up with our hiking adventure for this weekend. So while that happens, a lot of things are being kicked off. The Adobe Express app MCP server is being called. Some logic is being passed in for some creation. It's going to be surfacing me different templates right now to pick the style and feel of my flyer that it's being generated here. I like this one. Let's choose this one. And then at this point, I can decide if I like it, and I can fill in the context from above. So I'll just say fill text with the event details. And at that point, you can take the context that you've supplied above from your first prompt and inject that directly into the event template that we chose. Great. So here are some options that it has chosen, and you can go and edit this further for your builder's event. You can also see this and personalize this directly. But what we're going to do is just jump ahead to the next app. I'm going to show you now quizzes. So quizzes is an app that we built at OpenAI for anybody to build their own quiz tool and help you, learn more information. So I love coffee, so let's build a quizzes app that tests my knowledge of how to make a great espresso. So one thing interesting about the quizzes app is all the content in this UI here is dynamically rendered. And we did that by creating just the structured output within your tool response so that the UI knows how to exactly render out the content based off of the context it's provided in. So all of the generation here is only done dynamically, and nothing needs to be necessarily stored in the backend. So that's one paradigm you could add into your app if you want to have dynamic content. It's taking a second to generate a quiz. Let's give it a second. All right, for a balanced espresso on many modern machines, what brew ratio is a common starting point? Christine, do you know?
I will guess a 1-to-4 ratio.
All right, let's see if that is. Unfortunately, it was 1 to 2. Okay. what is a typical target brew temperature range for espresso? I actually don't know this. It might be 98 to 105, 110 to 120, 80, 96. Okay, well, there you go. You can use the Quizzes app to basically build any type of information that you would love to be tested on and come back to the same chat history and redo those for learning. So yeah, these are just some fun experiences to show you what you can build within ChatGPT. But let's actually go take a look now at the next piece of content. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen.
And we're back. Okay, thanks for walking us through all of these apps in ChatGPT. Feel free to try this yourself if you're watching and play around with it.
Great, so we looked at some apps, what we've launched and how they work in ChatGPT. I'm gonna just spend 1 to 2 minutes on the app construct of what is an app in ChatGPT, and then we'll move in to start building some apps ourselves. So for folks watching, if you're not already familiar with MCP as a concept, MCP provides capabilities across tools, actions, and resources that enable AI clients to have different actions and knowledge being brought in and taking actions on behalf of the user, both in read and write capabilities. And so if a user asks ChatGPT, for example, like find me trails, you can use the AllTrail app, talk to your MCP server, which could do anything from pulling in data from a backend to generating some information on the fly and then responding back with the URI in the tool output for ChatGPT to render out a web component. The web component is optional, so you could just have a backend only ChatGPT app. But what I think is most powerful is combining both the model, data logic from MCP server, and also a web component that is interactive within ChatGPT. So the web component gets loaded within ChatGPT, and it has access to the window.openai capability API that is allowing you as a developer to do things within ChatGPT that provide an immersive experience. We can tab two tabs over. Here we go. So one thing I wanted to call out is the framework here that we built and works within ChatGPT is an open protocol. Anybody can have an MCP server and also use the same framework of injecting a widget runtime within an AI client to have a UI on top of an MCP server. And just to dive a little bit deeper on the actual web component, we've exposed the window.openai API, which allows you as a developer to have your widget template, call this API and do a bunch of different things from reacting to context, updating state, receiving the tool results to take some action or call the tools directly to do some other operation. Yes. So I'm going to spend a few more minutes now just talking about what those capabilities are, and then we'll keep it moving. If you're not familiar already, there's the ability to do full screen mode, like we mentioned, and as well, you can add in anything you want really in the UI that meets our app submission guidelines and policies. And rendering a map view is one of those examples that creates a really immersive experience.
And we have a UI component library that we'll share after this live stream and also in the chat.
Some of the display mode options that you have is you can just load the widget inline. That's the most common experience, so that in flow as a user continues to talk with the model, it's brought in to provide additional enhancement to the experience. You can do picture-in-picture, which is quite interesting, to always leave up some type of floating window as the user continues to engage, and as well full screen, as I mentioned. Awesome.
So I think it's time to actually go through the process of building an app. Let's actually run through the process of how to build an app, and then we'll show you how to use Codex afterwards.
Awesome. So now I'm just going to talk as a developer to everybody listening and kind of walk through what it means to build a ChatGPT app. This is the process that exists today for most developers, and the traditional way of building apps. You may read the docs and learn a lot about, a content, an API, an SDK, our quick start, for example. You then may go into GitHub and then download some code and actually see some examples. As well, you may then go reference a component library that we shipped, which is really helpful for people to get going quickly and use things that are styled already. And then you may start coding in your repo and just start hacking away, downloading the samples, editing them. And you have to remember all these steps, that iterative process of understanding the concepts, looking at the components, going in the repo, and you code for days. And this has been the traditional form of software development for a long time now, which we're all familiar with. And then you also have to fix deployment and manage your application and the runtime of that nature. This is great, but I think we have the opportunity as well to look at the build app process using Codex and our Docs MCP server to help you build that much faster in an AI first world. So I still recommend everybody to go build the traditional way, read, download sample code, and ingest information. But as well, if you want to get going quicker and also have a really smart, thoughtful partner to work with you and code pair, Codex is a great tool here to help you build a lot faster. So at this point, we have one more slide. Just want to quickly highlight that we have our Docs MCP server. As I mentioned earlier, MCP enables AI clients to have additional information and context and take actions on behalf. What our Docs MCP server does is you can load this into Codex directly, and it has all that context on how to build an OpenAI in an AI enabled way for the model to understand how to hit our API or scaffold out code, things of that nature. So our MCP server is based on all of OpenAI's content. So you could build an API, our Apps SDK, and more. So today we'll just focus on how you can use it to build a ChatGPT app.
Cool. I will switch over to you so you can show how to do this.
Thank you. So if you're not familiar with Codex already, it's really easy to get going. You can go to OpenAI developers site and go over to Codex and go over to the overview. And this is how you install it. It's just an npm install command. So we're going to do that right now. And here I am in the terminal, and I'm going to install Codex. I already have Codex installed, so it would scaffold out a little bit more packages, but there you go. I've installed Codex. Next up, we're going to add our MCP server for the OpenAI developer docs. We are in the OpenAI developer site again under resources, and that's where we have our link for Docs MCP. Again, you can use this with Codex. You can use this with VS Code. You can use this in Cursor. Our Docs MCP server are here to help you build, irrespective of the platform you use for an AI coding tool. So let's copy that. And let's go into our terminal again. I'm going to clear the window. I'm going to paste that command. And Codex MCP add OpenAI developer docs. And here's the URL. Great, we've added our global MCP server. Now, anytime I talk to Codex, I have this information ready to go. So what I'm going to do now is also copy over a agents MD file into this folder. So now all I have is this agent MD file. And all this agents MD file is going to do is say, always use the OpenAI developer documentation MCP server if you need to work on anything with OpenAPI, chats, SDK, et cetera, et cetera. And that just provides Codex the context it needs to always know to use the OpenAI developer docs. All right, so we've installed Codex, we've installed the Docs MCP server. Let's go going and just scaffold out some code. So I'm going to initiate Codex by just saying Codex. And the very first time you're running Codex in any repository or workspace, you have to enable or allow it to take action on your behalf, or you can require approval. I'm going to just allow it. Great. And here we are within Codex. You're welcome to choose the model you want to run. I use GPT 5.2 Codex, and as well, I stick with the default medium reasoning level, but you can throttle those up and down as you please. Great. So let's go ahead and ask Codex to build me a Ping-Pong app. As you saw, there's nothing in my repo except the agents MD file. Create me a ChatGPT app with a simple UI and MCP server to play a ping-pong game. I'd like to be able to drag my cursor to control a paddle that I can play against the computer. So I just came up with this right now. And this is the command I'm going to give Codex. And at this point, Codex is going to take some time to take on this task. It's going to inspect the current repository, which is nothing is in it. And then at that point, understand from the agents MD instructions that it should probably use our OpenAI Docs MCP server to start ingesting this information. As you can see here, it's understand that context, and the first thing it did already is now calling a developer docs MCP server, looking for the Chats Apps SDK quick start, which will help it scaffold out code and actually start building out a repo for me.
And as it's building this out, you can actually see what docs it's referencing.
Exactly. So it's looking at the quick start, and it's going to be going forth and looking at the MCP server files, et cetera, et cetera. Now, this is the process you may already do in your current developer flow by reading the docs, looking at quick starts, and then going from there. But you can let a lot of that initial scaffolding be driven through Codex. So while this runs in the background, it will take a couple minutes here to kind of build out my initial game. I will go back to the docs here and just quickly show you some components here within the docs that it may be looking at. So the quick start itself, for your own level of learning, has everything you need to build a very simple app. Shows you a simple HTML file and as well a basic MCP server. In this case, this example is using the Node MCP server package to start building out your own MCP server. And it has a simple tool register here, and as well the resources that it responds with and how to run that server. So this is what the Codex MCP server right now is ingesting and building. All right.
We did have a question. Someone did ask if you have an example Hello World web component and they're struggling most with packaging. So is that something that we can help with using Codex?
Yeah, that's a great question. So two things that I think that will address that. One is take a look at our quick start. This is essentially the Hello World. We also have full example repos in the GitHub that I will link at the end and show you. But for the easiest, just getting started, you can run both a web component and your MCP server to build a very simple Hello World ChatGPT app. And what I've shown today, and the task is just finished, is you can ask Codex to actually just scaffold out a Hello World for you if you don't want to download it yourself and take on those initial steps. Okay, great. So let's look at what Codex did here. It built a minimal ChatGPT app with a Ping-Pong web component and MCP server. I can look at my repo here and see what's in here. So we have agents MC that I already created, package.json, public where my HTML is, and the server that's there. Let's actually just run this MCP server. So I'm going to go into this other tab. So you can see here, these are the files that was created. I'm going to npm install the packages. And now I'm going to npm start and run this server. Oops, sorry, I already have a server running in the background. Why don't we, I can either change my server here, like, let me do it on the fly. Can you update server from local host 8787 to 8000? This is a good live debugging. I already have a port running in the background, so without me jumping over there and killing that, I can just tell Codex to update my server. It's great. So let's go back here in this window and let's rerun that. So I can do npm start. Oop. Oh, I need to reinstall. Okay. Great. Well, what I'm going to do is actually just turn off the other server really quick. All right. All right, let's go back to screen share. Okay, cool. I have my server running right here, and I'm going to now tunnel the local host at 8787 to this endpoint. And now we can go into ChatGPT here and add this app to ChatGPT. Let's go into settings and go into apps. Let's go into create app and call this Ping-Pong build hour and add this MCP server. I'm going to add in /MCP because you need to reference the actual MCP server running on my ngrok tunnel. I'm going to go to no auth and I'm going to allow this app. Let's create the app. All right, let's add this app now into ChatGPT, Ping-Pong Bug Hour, and say, start match. All right, so this is a very basic ping pong app that was just created, and looks like I have to drag my paddle, which is kind of fun. But in just a few prompts, I'm playing against a computer right now. I was able to generate the code to scaffold out a very basic ping pong app, which is really fun. But what would be even more fun is to have multiplayer AI insights where the model can give me information and do this in real time where I can play with a friend who also is on ChatGPT, like Christine.
Okay, I'm ready.
So this is a simple app that we generated with Codex. Sorry, go here. We're running an ngrok tunnel to tunnel for our MCP server, and Codex just scaffolded out of the code, so I can take a look at that right here. You can see this is the code that's running. But what I'm going to do now is turn off this server and go into, and we will show you a app that I've built in full screen. Okay, so we're doing this live, folks, so bear with me. Okay, so I am now going into here, and this is a ping pong app that I've spent a few more days working on, or a few more hours using Codex, and I'm going to start this server. Actually, do need to turn off the old server, which I did, and then go and create a new tunnel. Oh, these tunnels are actually already live. So at this point now, I should be able to go here, and I've spent a few more hours adding in capabilities like scores, a lobby, and also the ability to do multiplayer. Let's do this live, and if it doesn't work, I will debug and get it working. But we're going to do a new match, so I'm going to ask for a new match. And at this point, Christine, you can do this as well. You're going to do a new match. So Christine's screen is on the right, mine is on the left. We are running my MCP server and the ping pong app that I spent a few more hours working on. And so this is an example of where you could take like an app, and I'm going to do create match, and you're going to take this code.
Okay.
C6, C2, E9. And you're going to join match. And when she hits join match, the game should move right away. So I'm only moving my left screen here. You can see my mouse. And Christine is playing on the right. Oh, already scored 1 point.
Okay, I have to...
We're going to play a full game here because I spent a few hours building this, and we want to let everybody see this in action. But the point is, this is the first ever real-time multiplayer app ever in ChatGPT, or at least the one I've seen. And that's a lot of fun. You can create an experience that is both a game, or you can imagine this being done for something more in a business workflow, like a live editor or things of that nature. But a game is a really fun example. You could play with your friends. And I'm going to let Christine score a few points here because she's actually really good at ping pong. We played and she did beat me.
Definitely.
So boom, she's going to score, and we're gonna get to 7 points. So right now I'm just letting the ball go through, but let's say rally one more time, and then I will miss this next shot. Boom. Okay, we're gonna get to 7, and now game's over. I lose because Christine's screen says she wins, which is really fun. But what's even better, and why this is powerful to do within ChatGPT, is you have the access of the model right there. I've additionally exposed a separate tool call for post-game analysis. And I think that's what's interesting. You can create an experience that is enriching, engaging, but you can also use the model now to take that data and give you more information. So I'm going to ask it post-game stats and analysis, left side. That's just the way I implemented it. And Christine can do the same thing and say post-game stats and analysis, right side. So while she does that, you can see already here within my widget, I've loaded up the stats from the previous game. I lost 3-7. Our average rally was 4 hits. Our longest rally was 7. And I only won about 30% of the shots.
Not too bad.
And it's already, I still lost. And it's giving me some tips that I should prioritize defense in the first return. And that makes sense because I let a lot of those balls just go score on the first shot so we can finish the game for demoing. But that's context, that it's an understanding and letting me know that the way for me to improve my game is to actually defend those first hits. Let's see what Christine gets.
Okay, so I'm writing in the same prompt on my side and then just clarifying that I'm on the right side. And then while this loads, Corey, just a quick call out that we're both in developer mode.
Yeah, great question. So for me to have loaded this locally running app, you have to enter developer mode, which allowed me to create an app that we call it side loading, but I'm running it locally and having it rendering within ChatGPT. So let's look at your stats. So you don't need to be in developer mode to use any of the production apps that are in the app marketplace, but for this Ping-Pong app that I just created, I'm running it locally and we're in developer mode. So yeah, your score now says 7.3, your win rate was 70%, and what it's giving you what you did well: consistency, balance exchanges, and to go even better, you can start mixing some pace and placement to be that super advanced player.
I think this sounds pretty accurate.
Yeah, but what's really fun here is we played on 2 different computers. You could play with any of your friends around the world. I could send somebody my MCP server and somebody else could play, or this app could be published in the marketplace, which I will do, and anybody can play ping pong here in ChatGPT and get some post-game analysis for how to play better. So that's really fun. So this is an example of an app that has some more capabilities: real-time, stats, multi-turn capabilities, and you can use Codex to help you iterate that much faster getting there. I'm going to stop sharing and we're going to go back to the presentation now.
Okay, so here is where we left off, and you just saw the OpenAI Docs MCP server in action. And here's a quick recap of what we just went through.
Yeah, so please check out our developers.openai.com apps SDK site. That's where all the resources to go deeper, learn more information, or you can just ask Codex to explain that content for you. Part of today's presentation is not just a walkthrough of the different resources and tooling, but kind of the paradigm of how builders build today. It's really, really helpful to use AI, particularly Codex, to parse this complicated and technical information and explain it in a way that's helpful for you. So you can ask it about, how does MCP servers work? How should I structure my tool calls? How should I think about building out UI components? How should I think about enabling full screen? And you can use it both as a coding tool, but also a learning tool as well, for you to be that much more capable in building and just providing things in the world that are a great experience. As well, we have apps that solve a user problem that stand out. So we haven't touched fully on this yet, and I'll get it in the next few slides, but part of building an app is not just building to build, right? It's building for things that land and that really solve people's problems or provide them with some utility. So I'd really recommend thinking about how both your UI, your model brings in some contextual data, or how the user's turns in flow provide a really enriching experience. Things like post-game analysis, things like bringing in live data from an AllTrails platform. So yeah, think about that, about how you can really bring utility into an existing flow. And then last but not least, we talked about Codex and how to use our Docs MCP server.
This is just a quick slide. You saw Corey do this live, but feel free to take a screenshot so you know exactly how to do this, turning on developer mode and loading in your app so you can create your own game and play with a friend.
Awesome. Just doing a quick time check, and we have time to now go through best practices on iterating your app. I won't go through in great detail all of these different topics, but I will touch upon the UI UX guidelines and a few other pieces in here. But I'd highly recommend to go deeper, go take a look at our docs where we have information on each of these topics. So for UX guidelines, some of the things that I mentioned was you shouldn't, if you already have an existing app platform that you've built separately from ChatGPT, you should be thinking about how you distill value into the user experience today and bring something at the point in time that would provide a delightful experience, and less of, let me port over my whole experience, add really deep multi-pagination and things that just kind of keep you stuck within that experience. Those are great, but they're not or so that those are good, but those are not necessarily what great could look like, because I think the power of an app within ChatGPT is the interaction between the model, the UI, and your MCP server. Awesome. Now looking at the screenshots here, this is just an example of a UI guideline. We have a whole page on this that goes through like the design principles, but little things like using the right font size, thinking about mobile. A lot of the traditional things about web development and native development persist as well when you're thinking about building an app within ChatGPT. But go read the docs there for some more detailed information. So we have an Apps SDK UI component library that we mentioned at the beginning of the call. We'll show the URL for this, or you can Google or use Codex to search for this. That is pre-built components to style your app. You can even tell Codex to, or you can download, install that package and then tell Codex to use those same components to build your app. It's a really helpful way to kind of get your app looking in a polished state, ready for app submission. So just covering some of those UX principles: extract, don't port. Treat ChatGPT as a home. It owns the overall experience, but you have the ability here to customize it and make an experience that is truly unique. And design for conversational entry. Sometimes the users aren't always going to be, as exact as they can be. And your MCP server can take that context and decide if it really wants to take action, or let the model know that it should ask for more information back. You have the ability to decide if you want to act on that intent, or you can provide an experience right away. So that's, I think, an important part of thinking about building a ChatGPT app and thinking about the different use cases and how people decide to engage with our platform and your app as well. And what makes an app valuable? This is subjective, and we're looking for all the best cases out there. But some of the things that we have strong conviction on is at least one thing better in your app, which it either can leverage conversation and context, multi-turn dialogue that you can load an initial UI, provide some information, but then you do some refinement, telling it to filter or take an action on your behalf. And the three pillars I think you can think about that is: does this help me know something more? Does this help me do something more, taking action in MCP? Or does this show me something in a better and more visually engaging way? So here are some additional resources. We have our GitHub examples. One of those in particular is Kitchen Sink, which is a very simple, not super styled ChatGPT app example, but it does implement all the different window.openai capabilities that allow you to do something within the UI. So it shows you how you can interact with state, how you can open up full screen mode, picture-in-picture, open an external link, and then you can take those examples and implement that in your own app if you think it's a valuable experience that you would like to do today. I will quickly mention some of the app patterns here that are buckets of experiences that you may be wondering how you interact with today. We've recently enabled the control of how your app interacts with memories. As a developer, you will never have direct access to memories, but what the model will do is, when you download a ChatGPT app, there will now be there is a toggle currently that says for the user, do you want to allow memories to interact with your app? If they've enabled it, then the model will, like normal, when you're interacting with ChatGPT, reference those if it's relevant, and then make a tool call to your MCP server. The data won't be passed over, but it will have that context when it makes an interaction, when it makes an action and a tool call to your MCP server. They can also disallow it, and then your app loads only in the context that exists within the chat conversation. For monetization, we have a couple different ways of doing this today. One of the initial examples is you can have your app have an authentication flow. So after the user installs and connects their app, you could require them to log into your platform, and then you can monetize by just having your traditional sign-up flows and things of that nature on your own site. Another more native way to do this is to add in a checkout-like experience within your app, or a button that then opens an external link to your application. And traditionally, what we've seen as a good paradigm is it can deep link people to like a final state of checking out. And then what we provide actually in the external checkout window.openai capability is a redirect URL. So after you've completed that action on your site or platform, you can natively direct the user back into ChatGPT and continue the experience there. Last but not least, the Agentic Commerce Protocol and Instant Checkout is something that we are looking to expose to more apps developers and builders. So we are working really hard to get that so you can actually do native buying experiences directly in app that don't require a checkout. But today, I'd recommend exploring the first two options as a way to adding monetization to your app, because I know it's a topic that a lot of people are asking about. All right, let's do a summary of everything we've covered here today so far. You should think about building for the user and the model. There, I think, is a very unique opportunity here to set the paradigms and the best practices and the best example apps for a new way of development. It's not just your code and a UI, it's both the model, your MCP server logic, and a web component. You can iterate faster with AI tools. And just a single prompt, I used Codex to generate out some scaffolded code and then had a very basic app. And you can continue iterating and using things like our Docs MCP server to load in all that context in an AI first manner to start building and iterating. And then last but not least, utilize the capabilities that are available. If it's full screen mode, if it's trying to do something in real time, be creative and think about what you can build. And I'm really excited to see, what you all build here in ChatGPT.
Great. Okay, we do have some time for Q&A. We did flag a few, so I preloaded one, and then we'll just take some from the chat. So first question here, how is OpenAI compatible with MCP? So we talked a lot about MCP today.
Yeah, this is a great question. So I've mentioned MCP in so many different fashions. Just to level set, there's the MCP server that exists for your app in ChatGPT. We also have our own MCP server, our Docs MCP server, that is able to be loaded in as context to any different AI tool like Codex or within Cursor, VS Code, etc. But as well, now thinking about our platform and tools like our APIs, Apps SDK, things of that nature, those are all compatible with MCP. So you can load in a different MCP server if it's for flight data or for bespoke product information, etc. You can load that into our platform and tooling to build out your own AI experiences with external logic and capabilities.
Okay, this next question was, do you recommend any tooling to make the local development experience better?
It's a great question. There are many different things here that you can utilize. Two off the back is you do run a local server, right? So you have a local server running your MCP server. You do need to tunnel that, particularly in developer mode, to run that within ChatGPT. So that's a public URL that points to your local private MCP server that's running on your computer. So I used ngrok. You can also use Cloudflare to tunnel, and it's quick and easy. It's a single npm install and then a single command to actually create those tunnels. But then when you think about production, you do need to host your MCP server somewhere with a URL that you can give to ChatGPT, either for development mode or for the public app submission flow where we review your app and then load that as the experience when people connect to your app and install it for the wide distribution. So there are a number of different hosting services out there. I would explore those if you don't have one of yourself. And for auth is a big topic. You can implement OAuth yourself, but there are great auth providers out there, some listed on our site. And so please explore those for ways that you can implement auth in a more seamless fashion.
This is one that I just saw come in. While building the apps, can you use other colors to make the design more sophisticated? Or are we only limited to what's in the design system?
That's a great question. For the most part, you have the control and freedom to design as as you see fit, both in terms of colors and fonts and things of that nature. There will be some things, for example, in our visual guidelines where we may call out things that are not allowed. And so I would review those carefully, but for the most part, you should be able to build a UI that fits your design. The UI components, though, currently are already pre-styled. And so they have different, params and controls to change how they operate, but those are mostly built in a specific way. But you can design your app as needed, and during app review, we'll let people know if anything is not particularly fitting well with an experience that works well for users, though.
Okay, this one I think was when you were demoing the Adobe and ChatGPT. Someone asked, do you need an account with Adobe to use the app?
That's a great question. So for that app, I did have to sign in. When I did sign in, they have common sign up buttons. So I think that's a good paradigm. Is if you want to create a free user experience but still have some form of authentication, you can do the common providers that provide sign-in that allows them to create an account and then directly get into your experience. But as they use your app and experience, they may need to upgrade their plan, et cetera, et cetera. But there was a sign-in flow that was required, and I had previously signed in already to get the app running. Okay. But AllTrails, for example, did not require me to have a sign-in, and just talking to their app pulls in that information and renders the UI, et cetera.
Okay, awesome. I think this one was already answered. Does OpenAI have any priorities in terms of categories they want to showcase?
Ooh, that's a tough question. We have the existing lifestyle and production categories in our app directory. We will evolve that over time, but at the moment we haven't publicly shared any specific categories that we are featuring more prominently, but we will build out more specific categories as we start to approve more apps and release them out into the ecosystem.
Okay, I think that is all we have so far. So we will just wrap up really quickly with some resources. So here are some links. Again, I will send these out. The first one is the Apps SDK, what makes a great ChatGPT app. This was a whole blog actually written by Corey, who's presenting today. So feel free to check that out as a recap, an additional resource. The UI guidelines here, where you can answer a lot of the questions that I see in the chat around UI, and also link out to our UI components. And then last but not least, to build our repo, I did see some last minute questions come in on this Ping-Pong app, how you can play and how you can actually iterate it and make it your own. So feel free to check it out and come back for more build hours. So on February 18th, we will be talking about prompt caching. And then on February 24th, we will come back for agent capabilities. So everything that you saw today on the Docs MCP server and Codex are actually applicable to these upcoming build hours as well. So check out our homepage and feel free to register and catch us on demand on our OpenAI YouTube channel. So thank you again for coming, and we will see you next time.
Thanks, everyone.